In this video, I'm going to show you how to go through the process of creating a rogue. Historically, rogues have been used as the party member with slightly less morals than the rest of the group. As a result of that, they have a number of roles that come into play. One of them being ranged or melee damage or a combination thereof, trap detection and disablement or removal of those traps, picking through locks rather than brute forcing them, stealth related activities such as reconnaissance and surprise and hidden attacks. And that's not all of them, but those are generally the most common tactics or functions of a rogue within a party. In a lot of cases, rogues will require either dexterity or charisma, depending on the type of background that they're going to choose. As a result, there's really only a few races that are available within the player's handbook that actually make sense for their use, such as the human and the halfling in this case. However, there are other races that are available from several of the other supplemental modules, and two examples that I have would be the Tabaxi and the Goblin. And those are typically the races that are used for the rogue class. You're not by any means restricted to that, but they're the ones that have the ability score increases that actually align much better with the rogue class. In relation to the backgrounds, there are four that are readily available from the player's handbook that stand out as perfect fits for the rogue class and a combination of whatever race you decide to choose. Urchin, Charlatan, Entertainer, and Criminal are four perfect examples for a rogue-related character. But again, you're not restricted to just this listing of backgrounds. You can use any of the other backgrounds that are available through the player's handbook or any of the supplemental guides, as long as they make sense for the type of character that you're looking to play. In today's example, I'm going to make use of the Goblin race, and the reason for that is because I've already created a Tabaxi character in reference to the campaign series that I have on the go. And I'm going to make use of the criminal background because the criminal background has a couple of features that I want to showcase in this particular video. So with that in mind, I've closed out all of the other cards that I had open in the background there, expanded out the class and the criminal background because they're the ones that have the bulk of the information that I'm going to need here in order to create this particular character. And additionally, I've set up the racial card there with just enough expansion to see everything that we need to refer to in relation to this particular character. Additionally, I've already gone through the process of creating an empty character that we're going to use for the rest of this particular video. And I gave it a name for the time being of a rogue. And the reason for that is I want to be able to showcase this particular character when I go through the process of explaining the various archetypes that are associated with the rogue class. As a result, this particular video will only take this character up to level 2. Level 3 is when this particular class acquires its archetype. And that's when you get to choose one of the 3 archetypes that are down here at the bottom of the class description. And that's a thief, an assassin, or an arcane trickster. If, however, you are not familiar with how to be able to create an empty character, I'm going to show you that right now. On the far right of your Fantasy Grounds window, you will see a series of larger buttons. You won't necessarily see this complete list. I'll show you how to get those in a moment. But you will always see this character button, and it's always going to be one of the topmost buttons that you have on your screen. If your screen is a different size, you might see 2 buttons side by side. If that's the case, it will be always the upper leftmost button. In the case of this particular screen, I only have a single column of buttons when it comes to the larger buttons. As a result, it is my topmost button. You simply click on that, and right-clicking in this particular window doesn't give you the option to go ahead and create a character. Instead, what you actually have to do is either add an item or import a character. In some cases, importing a character will not work from the player's point of view. You will typically have to email that exported character, that if you've used it in previous campaigns, to the Dungeon Master so that they can review it and import the character on your behalf. Some DMs allow you to do this. It's entirely up to the DM. To create that character, in this case I'm going to create an empty one, all you do is click Add Item, and it will make the character window go away, but you'll now have an empty character screen with nothing in it except for the predefined fields. And in addition to that, in the upper left of your screen, you will see an unnamed character. Now, I don't need this character, so I'm going to release this particular character. But before I do that, I'm going to show you that we have an empty screen here. And that's because all the characters that are associated with this particular account are open. so no additional characters will show up here unless they are additional characters associated with your account and you have not yet opened them. When I go ahead and release this particular character, it will close the class window, or the character window, sorry, and it will return that as an option within the character selection screen. But you can't remove it. You can only close the window. Only the Dungeon Master has the ability to actually remove that character. And I'm going to do that now on the Dungeon Master screen. Okay. Now, I've already cleared it, but the character is still being displayed there. For some reason, this window doesn't necessarily get a live update of character changes. I'm not sure if there's a technical reason for that or whether the developers just didn't feel the need to do so. But in order to refresh the list, you simply have to close it and reopen it again. In relation to actually setting up the buttons so that you can actually get to all of the various races, classes, whatever that you need to actually go to, you need to make use of this library button down here in the bottom right corner. Clicking on that will bring up this particular window. And at the top of this window, you will have 4 buttons that you can actually click. GM is typically what a GM will click on when they're actually running through a game with a bunch of people connected to it. Play is generally what a player will use when they're actively going through a campaign, and that just shortens the list of buttons that are on the top, or on the right, sorry. Create PC is what you will need when you're actually going through the process of creating your player character, and that is the button that will bring up all of the appropriate ones on the side window there. And then you have all. So I'm going to click on each of these, and I'm going to start with the GM one, and as you can see, there are generally buttons here that you as a player would not necessarily click on. Whereas with the play, we can see that there's a reduced number of buttons that are there. Create PC was what we had before, and then there is all. And if you have an overly wide screen, you will see that it will actually go through and create a second row there. Just going to set that back there. But we just need Create PC. However, there's one more thing we need to do before we can actually start dropping the race, the background, or the class onto the character sheet, and that is to roll the ability scores. To do that, there are a couple of ways that you can go about doing this. You can pick up 4 die, d6, so I'm just holding down the left mouse button, and I've dragged that particular die away from where it was being held, and I've right-clicked 3 additional times with the mouse button while still keeping the left mouse button held down. And that gives me 4 dice with which I can use to roll. But you might ask, why did I roll 4 dice? The max rollable value you can acquire for a character is 18, which is typically 3d6. Well, one of the ways that you can actually create an ability score, as defined by the player's handbook, is to roll 4d6 and drop your lowest score. There are, however, other ways you can actually go through the process of creating your ability scores, but I'm not going to cover them in this particular video series. The reason I'm not going to cover those other methods is simply because rolling 4 dice and dropping the lowest is generally the most common method used when it comes to actually creating your ability scores. Generally speaking, rolling the 4 dice and dropping the lowest carries enough randomization to it that you're going to get a very well-balanced character, unless you've had a really bad day when it comes to rolling dice. But on the flip side, if you had a very good day when it comes to rolling dice, you could potentially have 6 18s that you've rolled. You could also potentially have 6 3s that you have rolled. So as you can see, there's a fairly wide spectrum. Now granted, you're not really ever going to get 6 18s or 6 3s. You're most likely, based on the odds, going to have something well in the middle. However, rolling dice like this and then having to do this 5 additional times isn't necessarily the most efficient way to go through and do this. There is another method that is a little bit quicker, and that is actually making use of a dice macro. And to do that, you can either use the keyword roll, so roll or die, either one, doesn't matter. They both do the same thing. I think one's an alias for the other. And then just select 4d6 or type in 4d6. And then finally, type in an additional d and then the number of dice that you want. In this case, we want to drop 1, so I have simply typed in 1. Don't hit enter though. What you want to do is left click on that area of the text box, drag it around so that you see sort of the highlighted or bolded rolling of text there, and then drop it into your hotkey location. Once you've done that, simply hit F1 6 times. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or you could just simply click on that. But you'll notice one thing here. One of these numbers in all of these rolls has been grayed out. That is the die that has been dropped as a result of the rolls. So now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you will see that these are your actual stats. And I rolled pretty badly when it came to 2 of them. Didn't do too bad for a handful of them, and a little bit better for this. But for the rogue that I want to present, I'm thinking I want a little bit of a different stat. But I'm going to use these anyway. But now how do you use that? Well, there is a couple of ways that you can do this. You can simply type in the numbers in each of these particular fields and then just make sure that they match to one of the numbers here. Or you can actually drag and drop them. You couldn't do it with this because you still had to go through and subtract one of the values. But doing the die macro makes things a lot easier because now you can just simply drag and drop these numbers into the ability score that you want to put them into. However, before you do that, there's a couple of things you should keep in mind. The item that you want to keep in mind is specific to the race and or if there is a subrace. So in the case of the Goblin, there isn't a subrace. And generally, in the example of the Dwarves, for example, you'll have a stat that has been increased by 1 or 2 points, and then your subrace will make the second adjustment. In the case of the Goblin, all of your adjustments are done as you apply the Goblin race to this particular character sheet. So I'm going to get a dexterity increase of 2 and a constitution score increase of 1. All right, so that gives me a little bit more flexibility when it comes to actually applying where I want to put these stats. So dexterity, I'm definitely going to make the 15. This guy's going to be a rogue. It doesn't make any sense to put him anywhere else. When I drop this into place, that's going to bring his dexterity up or her dexterity up to 17. Constitution, in this particular case, is most likely going to be the second stat that you're going to want to make use of. But let's just have a look here. You can generally follow the quick build capabilities here. First, dexterity should be your highest ability score. Make intelligence your next highest if you want to excel at investigation, or choose charisma instead if you want to emphasize deception and social interaction. Second close, choose criminal background. Okay, because I'm choosing the criminal background, it makes more sense to have that 14 in my charisma. Goblin with a high charisma. Wow, okay. I will, however, drop the 13 there. I will put you there. And that's going to make an interesting choice on characters because he's got an intelligence and a wisdom penalty of -2 when it comes to saves, and a -2 when it comes to the actual ability score bonuses. A good way to look at this is that this particular rogue might actually be a pretty good thief, but he's never going to understand the true value of the things he or she might be stealing. All right, so now that I have the stats in place, I can now look at actually dropping other aspects of this build into the actual character sheet. First thing you want to start off with is your race. So you want to drop that right there. And you literally just left click and drag on that particular icon and then drop it into the field that you want to drop it into. Now, if I let go right now, it's going to move that card, which is fine. There we go. Not an overly big issue. The next thing I want to drop into place is the class. And the reason being is that it just simplifies the selection of your skills before you actually apply your background. Now, your background, in this particular case, is going to give you deception and stealth. You don't need to select those. You're going to get those as part of that process. So, for this particular rogue, I have a couple of other things I can choose. Now, investigation, he's not going to be that good at. he or she has a penalty, and that's going to be a bit of a problem. So I want to go through, and same with insight and perception. So what can I do? Probably performance and sleight of hand. I'm gaining stealth. Now, sleight of hand uses your dexterity. Yep, okay. Performance uses charisma. Yes, okay. Acrobatics. That's a dexterity, so that makes sense. And let's see here. Deception I'm getting. Persuasion. Let's go with persuasion. Okay. So as you can see here, I can choose 4 skills out of this particular list. And this is one of the reasons why rogues are very good at their job. They're good because they start with a lot of proficiencies in their skills. I've already got 4, and I haven't even applied the background yet. All right, so now I'm going to drop the background into place, and what we should see is the addition of deception and stealth. So that gives me a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 skills that I am proficient in, and I don't even have to do anything else with them. I'm getting a +5 bonus for the dexterity-based ones, and I'm getting a +4 for the charisma-based ones. So I've maximized essentially the ability scores of this particular character's skills. Additionally, when I dropped the race into place, the dexterity and the constitution both increased. I forgot to point that out when that actually happened, but that is fine. There are some other things that also got preset for us. For instance, the speed of the particular character, the character's initiative roll or bonus, their AC, if they have dark vision or true sight or whatever, it automatically gets thrown into here. What their passive perception is, in this case he's got an 8, or she, as well as the available hit die that you could use during short rests to actually heal your character. So in this case I have 1 die 8 hit die. However, we're not complete yet. All we've done really is set up the character's ability scores, their class, and the features and whatnots associated with the race and the class and the background that they acquire. There are some other things that we need to do, and this is where the class sheet is going to come into play. First off, you're going to need to understand what you're going to gain for each of the levels. Now, in the case of this particular character, we're only going to be taking them to level 2 in this particular video. And that's because I want to be able to highlight the different archetypes, like I've done with the fighter class. Finally, we're going to want to make sure that we take a look at the proficiencies. Okay, so he can wear light armor. He or she can use simple weapons, hand crossbows. They're already proficient in longswords, so you're not getting access to the wide range of martial weapons. You're only getting access to some simple weapons and some very specific martial weapons, like the longsword, the rapier, and the short sword. You have thieves' tools. Dexterity and intelligence are your primary saving throws. Ooh, that's going to hurt. Okay, we've already done that. Now the equipment. All right, so that is what we will do next. I want to apologize for the sudden change in the theme that you're seeing on the screen, and that is because I've run into a bug with the theme that I was using in that inventory items were not appearing on the inventory screen. So for the rest of this particular video, I have switched to the default theme in order to show you the rest of the steps that you have to go through to set up your initial character. Now, in relation to your equipment, you're going to want to combine what the class sheet lists as your starting equipment with what your background lists as your starting equipment. And this is why it's generally recommended that anyone who is creating a character, even if they're creating their own custom background, bases it off of an existing background so that they can at least start with some of the general equipment, and then they can adjust that as needed. So in this case, a rogue has a few options when it comes to their equipment. I'm going to start off with the weapons, and that is going to be either a choice of a rapier or a short sword. I've always been partial to the short sword, so in this case that's what I'm going to choose. So I'm going to scroll down to the martial weapons and look for short sword. Here we go. And I'm just going to drag that. I forgot to open up the inventory. There we go. and then just drop that into place. And just for your information, you do need to actually have the inventory thing selected. So I just showed you that if I dropped it right onto the main tab, the number of short swords in place did not increase and nothing changed on the actions page. So you do need to actually have the inventory section selected. Let's see what else have we got here. I can take a short bow or another short sword. Now I'm not planning on making this a dual attack type rogue, so I'm going to take the bow and a quiver of 20 arrows. So I'm going to open the weapons back up, and that is a short bow. Okay, so it should be under... There you are. Okay, so it's under simple ranged weapons. Make sure inventory is selected, and I'm just going to drop that into place. Now, the quiver's not going to be under your weapons list. That is going to be under adventuring gear. So I'm just clicking on the adventuring gear, and I'm going to grab this one that says arrows 20 and drop that into place. All right. Am I done with weapons? I am done. No, I need 2 daggers. So, 1, 2. Okay. And are you giving me any weapons? No. Okay, so now I am done with the weapons. In relation to armor, I don't appear to... Oh, yep, I do. I get leather armor. So I'm going to go to the armor list here, and it is a light armor. I'm just going to drag that onto the inventory sheet. Anything else specific to the armor? No, nothing there. Nothing there. Okay. So now on to the adventuring gear. I need either a burglar's pack, a dungeoneer's pack, or an explorer's pack. This guy's going to be using the criminal background, so what does the burglar's pack come with? If you're ever curious as to the items that are included with any of the packs, all you have to do is click on the link, and it will pop open the information here. Backpack, bag of 1,000 ball bearings. So there's a crowbar. Now we're going to get a crowbar from our background equipment, and nothing else that's really associated with this. 5 days of rations. I'm not sure why they always give the thief so little when it comes to their burglar's pack when it comes to rations. And okay, that makes sense. So I'm going to drop that into place. Now what's going to happen is all those items that are listed there, when I drop this particular pack into place on the equipment list, it's going to expand out and add each of those items to this particular list. So it's going to go boom. And there we go. And the backpack will always start out empty. Okay. Thieves' tools will not be listed here. And we've already got the 2 daggers. What about over here? So we need another crowbar. So crowbar. Okay, so that now puts it at 2 crowbars. Close. That's a common close, including a hood. Now, one thing here, you won't find a hood. So what I generally recommend when a player takes something like this, where it states close including a hood, I tend to do this, includes hood. The reason I do that is it tells me as the DM that, he's got a slightly unique set of common clothes that he or she is wearing. Okay, a belt pouch. So there is one of those. Pouch. Yoink. Belt pouch. Okay, so we'll get to that in a moment. And the last thing we're missing is the thieves' tools, and that is always going to be under the tools group here. So you want to look for thieves' tools right here. It's under kits and sets. Okay, and then finally we want to add the gold. Now the gold typically gets thrown in here as a treasure item here. And I like to go PP, GP, EP, SP, and CP. And then put 15 here. Okay. That's everything. That is everything related to our equipment. However, we're not quite done. We still have to actually go through and set up our character's actions page. And one thing I like to recommend players do in association with their inventory is to organize their inventory a little bit. And I do that by recommending that one, they get rid of the empty word on the end of the backpack. And then simply go through and tell me where that particular item is. You can see here that there is a location field, or column if you will, that is next to each of these particular items. Well, I need to know where you've put that so I can gauge how long it will take for you to get at something. And all I have to do is simply begin the process of typing in where that particular item has been stored, and then select the up or the down arrow key to move to the next field. I don't want to hit enter here, and the reason for that is because you'll end up getting empty columns like I've got down here, or empty lines rather, like I have down there. Now, why is that? There we go. Where did that come from? Is that another bug that's happening? Okay. Ball bearings. Backpack. Hammer would be backpack. Backpack. That'll be on the belt. Those are typically in the backpack. That's typically either wrapped around a particular character, for example, in the belt area, or as a backpack. One thing that I didn't give is a quiver. So, adventuring gear, quiver. Link. There we go. So these arrows are located in the quiver. That's not what I want to do. I think there's a space there, actually. Okay. Where else? What else have we got here? And that I will also place on the belt. Ring, backpack, thieves tools, backpack. Everything else is pretty much backpack. Now, things that you're typically wearing. To me, it's obvious the backpack is going to be on the back. All it has to be is carried, and it's equipped. Now, the reason why I recommend players do this is for the following reason. If you click on this particular icon here, you'll see that it moves around. First, it's carried. Next, it's equipped. Next, it's dropped. So if this is blank, it means you're not holding it. And if you look here, our encumbrance is currently at 22. If I put that back into the carried, that goes up. So it makes things convenient for you as a player to say, I need to drop my backpack so that I can climb this particular thing because I'm carrying too much weight. Okay, perfect. You simply unequip the backpack and everything falls to the floor that was in it. Otherwise, you have to literally individually select all of these particular items and go through, okay, I'm going to leave that behind, I'm going to leave that behind, I'm going to leave that behind, that kind of thing. Although you might take your thieves tool with you. So in that particular case, you might decide to carry that with you or equip it if you're going to be using it. All right. Now it's in your backpack, so I'm going to equip the backpack. And other things like the dagger, for example. Okay, so where is that? Well, you don't have a sheath for it. There's an assumption of a sheath somewhere, but it's not always the case. Short bows, things like that, you're always generally wearing them or having them equipped in some way, shape, or form, and that's simply shown by having this set up this way. Okay. So, oops, I meant to set this as carried, not equipped. My apologies. Okay, so that is how organizing your inventory works in a lot of ways. Some DMs will be a little bit more specific about putting this in. I'm a little bit on the 50-50 side. So with the inventory organized, the last thing we really have to do is go set up our actions page. When we added the daggers, the short bow, and the short sword into place, everything was already put there, with the exception of two things. You have to make sure that you put the quantity of ammunition you're carrying for your short bow and how many daggers you have that can be thrown. That's what this symbol means. So if you highlight over it, it means thrown. In relation to a ranged weapon, it could be a sling, it could be a longbow, short bow, crossbow, whatever. You're going to have ammunition for it. Even if it's one of the different weapons, like a gunpowder-based weapon, such as a musket or something else. Some of the more scientific ones, antimatter rifle, I think. I'm not sure if it has ammunition or not. I've never actually looked at it and used it, but I assume it does. But you'll see that you have dagger listed here twice. Well, one is a melee attack, the other is a thrown attack. If you throw and you attack with that particular dagger, you're going to want to make sure that you tick off that you have thrown that. Now you have to remember to go collect it. And the same thing should be happening with your arrows. As you make an attack and you hit, you should go collect your arrows. If you miss, you should go collect your arrows. Because as you use them, they're going to burn through and you're eventually going to have no arrows left to be able to shoot. If you recover them, well, now you've got them again. Except there's one small problem. Within the rules of D&D, you're really only going to ever get half the arrow average back, meaning that there's a 50-50% chance that that arrow broke when you shot it. There's not necessarily a guarantee in that particular case. You might have arrows that don't break, and magical arrows are automatically expended. You can't collect them again. They're typically a one-shot deal. So that's how that particular process works. But there are other actions that the rogue has or could make use of. Dodge, ready, assist, those are all skills or abilities, if you will, that you can make use of, and they're not generally here in this particular window by default, and they're not really an item or an action you can add to this. You have to go through and create that. And I may do that at the end of the video just to show you how that they get created. However, there are extensions that I'm hoping will be available for Fantasy Grounds Unity shortly before release or sometime around release that was created by Rob Toohey. He goes through and he creates all of the actions that your characters could do, including the ready options and whatnot, so that all you have to do is drag and drop them into your action page. So you don't have to go through and manually create them. The DM, however, has to have those features there and enabled in order for you to view them. So in this case, we want to go to our abilities tab. Now, criminal contact. Not really an action. That's more of a role-playing thing. Okay, so we're going to want to take a look at this. And sneak attack is definitely something we're also going to want to take a look at. Thieves can't. That's just more or less a language, which I forgot we also have to do. This is something we are going to want to do, as well as this. Okay. The rest here. Okay, so we have Common and Goblin. So languages are already set for us. We don't need to worry about that. And one type of gaming set. So one of the things that we didn't do is we didn't set the type of gaming set that we wanted to go through and actually be proficient in. We are also proficient in Thieves Tools, which you can see here. A gaming set comes from the Adventuring Gears list. Oh no, actually, my apologies. It comes from Tools. So you can choose one of these that you can be proficient in. And as a DM, I will typically also allow you as the player to take one of those and add it to your inventory. Some DMs don't. Let's see, I'm going to playing cards. So playing card set will be what we're proficient in. So to change that, all you do is go playing card set. That's what that particular character is proficient in. That way the DM knows, okay, he or she has a playing card set in place. Is he or she proficient in it? Yes? No? Okay, we're good. Some of these are going to be fairly easy to add. So I'm going to close that out. We don't need that anymore. And I'm going to take a look at these. So Nimble escape, we're definitely going to want to make that as an action. Fear of the small. I think that automatically gets applied, but I think you have to specify it. When an attack creature, attacker spell, a creature is larger than you, can cause extra damage to the extra damage equals to your level. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again to finish. Okay, so it is something you have to use and set up. Then there's sneak attack. That one's always fun. And expertise. Okay, at first level, choose 2 of your skill proficiencies or 1 of your skill proficiencies and your proficiencies with these tools. Okay. So with the expertise skill here, what you are going to do is you're going to take a look at the skills that you're proficient in. So that would be, in this case, acrobatics, deception, performance, persuasion, sleight of hand, or stealth. And you're going to double that proficiency bonus. Now, the proficiency bonus is associated with your actual proficiency bonus here, next to your class. As you level up, according to your class, that will increase over time. So if you look at your table, you'll see the proficiency bonus column here. At level 5, that's when that increases to a +3. So instead of this particular proficiency bonus being a +2 for those expertise-related skills, you're going to have a +4 bonus to them. Okay, so let's see here. Now, one of the ways that we can do that is simply by making sure that we're double proficient in it, or half proficient. Not proficient, we want to be proficient, so let me put this back to proficient. Sure, let's see here. I'm going to go with double proficiency for stealth. Oops. There we go. And you'll see that the bonus here went up to +7. Now, because I've selected double proficiency bonus here, what that means is that when I hit +3 at level 5, this will also go up as a result of that. And I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to leave the proficiency bonus or the proficiency with thieves tools capabilities there, because you need to be proficient with your tools in order for things to work properly, in my opinion. All right. In relation to Fury of the Small, you do get a bit of a bonus to the damage that you're going to do in relation to a larger creature than you. Now, Goblin is a smallish creature. Their size, should be under notes here, is a small. So anything medium or larger is larger than you. So what does that mean to Fury of the Small? Well, you can do an extra point of damage that is equal to your level. So in the case of a level 1 rogue, that is 1 point of damage. In the case of a level 2 rogue, that's 2 points. And that continues to increase as your level goes up. But by default, nothing is there. Okay, well, that's a small problem. All we have to do is right-click anywheres over the Fury of the Small option here and go to Add Action. It is at the 3 o'clock option on the radial menu here. Click that, and the type you want to do is damage, which is also at the 3 o'clock location in this particular radial menu. Click that, and you'll see that you get a new option here. Over on the right is a slightly grayed out magnifying glass, and you want to click on that to get the ability damage option up. Once done, you will see an edit list option here. You want to click on that, click on the green add item that comes up, and then get rid of that as soon as you're done, because you don't need that part again. So how do you set this up? Well, what you're going to do is simply click on the stat option here until you get to level. And you'll see that our level is a 1. When I drop level 2 into place, we should see that this increases. So what you will do is you will call out to the DM that, oh, I need to be able to set this up, and I'm going to do use Fury the Small, and I'm going to do my extra point of damage. Well, now there's another factor that comes into play. You can't do it again until you have finished a short or a long rest. So how do you fix that? Well, you click on the button down here that's at the bottom right, and that is going to be the standard, and you want to set it to preparation. Once you've done that, you'll see that you'll have 0 daily uses. All right. You want to set it to a 1 and for a rest. So what'll happen is that will give you 1 small pip here when you're in combat mode. When you use that, that will go away and it will get used. So you want to make sure that you've done your damage roll first, otherwise you'll no longer have access to it. Well, how do you get it back? Well, now you have to actually go through and execute a rest, and only the Dungeon Master can actually do that. I believe, anyway. I don't think, yeah, no. So I'm going to execute a rest on this particular character. I'm going to execute a short rest. What we should see is that that should have come back. Oops. But it did not. So there appears to be a bug going on right now. When you execute a long rest or a short rest, this should be unchecking those pips. Not sure why that's not working the case, but in any event, I got to change the group that this particular, not Goblin, that should be Goblin. There we go. Get rid of the Goblin one. Now let's see if I use this. And as you can see, it is set for a rest. And I've gone through and I've run both a long rest and a short rest. And it just doesn't seem to want to actually work in this particular case. As you can see, you can see that I'm executing that rest here. Now, if I set this up to be daily, which means you should have to go through a long rest in order to get that back, it's still flagged as used. If I execute a long rest, it still doesn't return. So you can see there appears to be an issue there. And this actually needs to be rest. So rest implies short or long rest, and you will get that back. So that sets up Fury of the Small. So the next thing to set up is Nimble Escape. Nimble Escape isn't really a use. There is no, you must do this at the end of your turn or whatever, and then you have to rest before you get it back. So you can pretty much use it at will. So this stays unaffected. It is, however, a bonus action on each of your turns. So I generally like to throw in a B on the end to indicate that it is a bonus action. And it is also coming through from the racial trait, so it is also a goblin power. And I just do that to make sure that everything that's specific to the goblin is thrown into a tab or a category, if you will, that is associated with that particular race. The reason for that is now it makes it nice and easy to hide. So if I've used them all, oops, okay, I don't need them in there anymore. Or if I don't need them at the time, I can just minimize them. Now, sneak attack is coming from the rogue capability, and that is a class trait. So I like to also make sure that class items get their own, and we can get rid of the spell stuff there. Now, sneak attack does not have a rest limitation. No, okay. But it does have a damage increase. The amount of extra damage increases as you gain levels in this class, as shown in the sneak attack column of the rogue table. So sneak attack is in this column here. And you'll see at 3rd level, we increased to 2d6. At 5th level, we increased to 3d6, 4d6, 5d6, 6d6, and so on and so forth, up to 10d6 as the total. Well, technically, you could potentially modify that to work as a multiplier of your level. But there's not really a certain level of math that Fantasy Grounds can do here. I don't think it has the ability to do 2 divide or Level divided by 2 is your multiplier. I don't know if that actually works. So LVL divided by 2 plus, so, oops, times 1d6. I don't believe that would actually work. It would be nice, because it does appear that every 2 levels you're getting an increase, or 2.5 really. So let's see if this will actually work. Effect dropped, error. Okay. I'm not selecting myself. All right, so I need to open up the combat tracker. Oops, apparently there's a few other things in there. Let's clear that out. All right, I'm going to add this character. That'd be the wizard. Open up the rogue. Drop the rogue into there. Okay. So, I am going to drag and drop the effect onto myself. Now, there is a goblin boss here, so I'll make him visible. I am going to attack that goblin boss. In theory. No. There we go. Now, if I roll damage on my short sword, it's not going to do anything else because it doesn't know what to do with this. Whereas if I undo the changes that I did, it should automatically do that. Unless that has to be on the target. Oop. Oh, I know why. It's because I didn't clear the old effect out of the way. Remove. And remove. Effects are always tricky sometimes. There we go. Now if I attack, I should get 2. Yeah, so it's doing that. And then as you can see, it automatically expires the damage. So the easiest way to deal with this for the time being is just remember that when you hit level 3 or any of the other levels that it increases, you just modify this value. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Okay, and that is all of the skills that we have at this particular point in time. So this character is now ready for, quote unquote, his first leveling up. Although I haven't actually set a particular race or sex for this particular character, so it's immaterial. It doesn't matter whether it's male, female, or whatever. So, how do you level up a character? Well, the easiest way that I like to do it is simply to just drag and drop. When that happens, you'll see that anything else that occurs for that particular level change, if you will be noted in the chat box. Well, one of the things that we got was Cunning Action. Well, that's a new ability. Okay, so what does that do? All right, so I'm going to add that as an action here. And this is a rogue capability. And you can do this pretty much as a bonus action on your turn. So I'm going to make sure that B is noted on the end there. And that's it. That's level 2. That is as complicated as it gets when it comes to setting up a first level rogue. In addition, it is how you go through the process of leveling up a particular character. And you can see here that our Fury of the Small did increase by the level value. So that is working as expected. In addition, we now have 2 hit dice, and our total hit points have increased. we have not really gained any other capabilities that have occurred during this level up. And that is the rogue. So next series of videos specific to the rogue will most likely be me covering the archetypes. And I will go through each of them individually in a video specifically set up for those archetypes, much like I did with the fighter class. So that's the end of the rogue video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.